Thanks for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning in Calgary. Basically a good postcard behind me of Calgary. We are here, of course, ahead of tomorrow's provincial election. This city, really the battleground where the results will be decided. Both leaders have been campaigning very hard in key ridings in Calgary, making their final pitch to voters.
Well, the UCP is running on a record of success and economic growth because it's a record we can be proud of. Rachel Notley is running away from her record as Premier because she wants you to forget it.
I'm proud of my record. My record, our record is more jobs, better healthcare.
And for a better understanding of what is happening in this town, who is better to talk about it than the Mayor of Calgary, Jyoti Gondek. Nice to meet you in person finally.
It's good to meet you too.
Yeah, and it's an incredible day in Calgary. We chose the right day to be here.
Beautiful. We've got the Calgary Marathon cheers going on behind us.
Yeah, we can see them. It's quite funny. We spoke to the pollster Janet Brown last hour, and she really said this comes down to Calgary. Naheed Nenshi, your predecessor, said this is the first time that it feels like people are paying attention to Calgary in an election, and I'm wondering what that means for you to know that it potentially, who forms government is hanging on the shoulders of this place.
You know, it's important to know that we're being taken seriously, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. So the fact that people have gone out early, the advanced polling numbers have been quite high. I'm very encouraged to see that people are making choices. I've also heard from a lot of folks that they don't feel like they have a political home or a partisan home. And so that's a bit of a struggle. But I would say, you know, for anyone feeling that way, get involved with a party, get a membership, get multiple memberships, and make that change from the inside because it's your voice that matters. So for future, we need to be more engaged.
Feel engaged. What are the issues for the city that have been top of mind and that would be affected by a provincial election? Just the things that you're most concerned about.
I would say the number one thing is affordability. And when I use that language, people automatically jump to housing. And yes, housing is absolutely critical. We've got somewhere between 60 and 65 people a day on average moving to our city. So we need to make sure there's homes for them. But that's just the first step. Those homes also require people to have access to schools in their neighborhoods, good access to public transit, healthcare, all of those things that create great quality of life. And that is infrastructure investment that cities cannot do on their own. So I'm really looking for a provincial partner that will understand how badly we need to invest in infrastructure in all municipalities, particularly a place like Calgary where we generate a lot of economic growth and income tax for the other two orders of government. We need some of that share to come back.
How much of that needs to be affordable housing? Because, you know, you see along the river these beautiful big condos, but I'm sure not everybody can afford those.
Yeah, absolutely. The need for affordable housing is getting increasingly dire. We heard from Calgary Economic Development a few weeks ago that if we don't start addressing housing and affordable housing, we will lose our competitive advantage. And so we've done a lot of work in terms of downtown office to residential conversion, where we've taken 1 million square feet that was previously office space and created 1,200 new units, many of which are part of the affordable housing stock, and they are family-style units too. So multi-generational living is possible.
Sort of post-pandemic transitions into other office building. What about healthcare? We were talking to a couple of doctors earlier. I'm sure you saw that open letter. What is the state of healthcare in this city in terms of how your ERs are coping?
We're not coping very well. The wait times are absolutely off the charts, and it is daunting for anyone who's ever had to sit in an ER with an aging relative or a child, and there's something serious going on that you don't know. Sitting in that waiting room is probably the worst moments of your life, and it goes on for hours. So we absolutely need more investment in healthcare. Every healthcare worker is saying this.
We were just talking to a couple of mayors impacted by the wildfires. Obviously, you were not directly, although it was smoky, I guess, for a number of days, not now. How much of sort of climate change and energy has been the conversation here in this city? I would imagine it's a big conversation.
It's a big conversation, and I have to say to all the mayors and members of council that have been in the impacted wildfire areas, they've done a remarkable job of staying strong and taking care of their residents, so I stress my appreciation for them. The one thing that we need to realize is, as a city that's known for energy and now known for energy transformation, we are making some big moves in Calgary around wind and solar and clean tech. We are leading the country on this. But in order to really do it well, and reduce the impacts of climate change, as we can see we need to do, we're going to need a lot of capital to flow through. And to do that, we have to have a provincial and a federal government that's working with us to say, we are the hub, we have the solutions, come and join with us.
The Sovereignty Act, I'm not going to get you to endorse anyone, because I know you won't, or weigh in on anyone in particular, but I mentioned that piece of legislation because it was so controversial, and because we are expecting the federal government to put forward a cap on emissions, oil and gas emissions, soon, and it has been suggested that that could be a place to use the Sovereignty Act. Do you have any concerns about that, about what that might do to sort of pit Alberta against the federal government, and how that could potentially impact you in your job?
If I unpack the fact that the Sovereignty Act came to be a thing, it was a move to say, we don't like the way you were going to come to us and ask for reductions in emissions. And if that's what triggered it, what I would want to see is the ability for a municipality like ours, together with the provincial government, to go to the federal government and say, look, we don't think you got it right. Come and join with industry, talk to our sector, and let's understand how we do this better so that this works for everyone. Because Calgary's economic success and our commitment to a sustainable future will help drive the country forward. So if the Sovereignty Act was intended to send a message, it has. But now we've got to work in partnership and fix whatever solution the federal government wants to bring in to actually work for everyone.
It's hard to see how that collaboration would come, though, when the immediate reaction appears to be Sovereignty Act and let's go to court to see if you're allowed to do this.
Those are not the easiest solutions. I would really hope that federal partners, together with provincial partners, will come and talk to our sector experts and the folks that are working in emissions reduction, carbon capture, and clean tech, and figure out that we are leading the way. And there's much that we can do, but you got to talk to us.
We're talking to all of Canada, and they're paying attention to Alberta. I mean, we always do, but perhaps not as much as we do it around an election. What would you say to Canadians about Alberta or Calgary that maybe they don't get, or they have a misconception?
If you come here, you will see that we are an incredibly welcoming place. We're very inclusive. We're the third most diverse city in Canada. And we have really gone into recovery with a lot of belief in ourselves. So we invested over $450 million into downtown revitalization. We've been doing a lot of good work in many areas that frankly are not our jurisdiction. We've got a mental health and addiction strategy. We've got strong housing and affordability task force recommendations coming to us. So we're a city that understands our future, needs to build off of our past, but it also needs to be different in many ways. So Calgary's ultimate success is Canada's success, and I would invite people to learn more about what we're doing.
Advanced polls have hit a record. What does that say to you about engagement in this election, and how reassuring is that? Because we can both be pro-engagement in democracy.
I'm encouraged to see that the advanced polling numbers were so high. I think people also realize that although there's this tradition to go on voting day, sometimes things happen on voting day that you can't control. So I'm very happy to see that Albertans are using their voice. They've gotten out early, and they're making sure that they are able to influence the results.
Listen, you talked about the investment that you're doing. I can see it just as a tourist over the past couple of days. It's just a beautiful city.
Thank you.
So you're doing that part right, for sure.
We've done a lot of good work in this area.
Mayor, nice of you to come down. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for having me.